Who here has attached a debugger to a process running in production? On purpose. Take a second and think about that. Most hands stay down. And that's really the gap this session is about. Today, we're covering using visual debuggers for Java and C++, techniques for systems engineers. The goal isn't to teach you how to click step over. You already know that. The goal is to treat the visual debugger for what it actually is, a client sitting on top of a real wire protocol, talking to a real process. We'll cover the shared architecture behind every debugger you've ever opened, the two protocol families that power Java and C++ debugging, a live scripting example, the hard trade-offs between live and post-mortem debugging, a real production diagnostics pattern, and reverse debugging, the technique that changes what reproducing a bug even means. Let's get into it. Opening. Frame the two failure modes: engineers who never look past the IDE, and engineers who avoid debuggers entirely and rely on print statements and log greps for everything. Core explanation. Walk through the 4 bullets. Emphasize the protocol split. This is the organizing idea for the whole deck. Java debugging rides JDWP, Java Debug Wire Protocol, part of the JPDA, Java Platform Debug Architecture Stack, alongside JVM-TI. C++ debugging on Linux rides the ptrace2 syscall directly against the OS process. Different failure surfaces, different tooling, different production risk profile. Production reality. A common story. An engineer can reproduce a bug locally in under a minute with the IDE debugger, then spends 3 days failing to reproduce it against the staging cluster because the debugger was never designed to attach through a load balancer, a NAT, or a container boundary without deliberate configuration. Remote JDWP socket, port forwarding, ptrace capabilities inside the container. Audience touchpoint. Ask if anyone has hit unable to attach to target VM or ptrace operation not permitted, and what they did next. Transition. To fix that, we need the shared mental model every visual debugger is built on. Estimated time, 1.5 to 2 minutes. So let's build that understanding. Every visual debugger, no matter which one you use, is 4 layers wearing a different skin. Layer 1, the IDE frontend. VS Code, IntelliJ, Eclipse. This layer renders breakpoints, renders the stack, and takes your input. That's it. It owns none of the actual debugging logic. Layer 2, the protocol layer. This is the wire format the frontend speaks to get things done. Microsoft's Debug Adapter Protocol, DAP, standardizes this as JSON RPC, which is what decouples modern editors from specific debugger implementations. JDWP is the older, Java-specific equivalent, and GDB's machine interface is what older native debugging IDEs speak. Layer 3, the debugger backend. This is the engine that actually understands how to control the target. JDI, the Java debug interface for the JVM, GDB or LLDB for native code. Layer 4, the target process itself, either the JVM's bytecode interpreter or raw native process memory. Here's the key insight, and I want this to stick with you. Stepping into a function is never one operation. It's the IDE sending a protocol request, the backend translating that into an actual breakpoint write, an IN3 instruction for native code, or a JDWP event request for bytecode, the target trapping and suspending, and state flowing all the way back up those 4 layers before you ever see a highlighted line. Every technique we cover today is really just a variation on where, in that chain, you choose to intervene. And this layering explains something that trips up almost everyone the first time they try remote debugging. You're independently configuring network reachability at 2 separate points, IDE to backend and backend to target. And a failure at either one produces a nearly identical can't connect error with a completely different fix. Keep that in mind because it comes up again in a minute. Let's make layers 2 and 3 concrete, because this is where remote debugging setups usually go wrong. On the Java side, the JVM ships a built-in JDWP agent. You enable it with a flag like agentlib/JDWP, transport equals DT_socket, server equals Y, suspend equals N, address :5005. That suspend equals N setting matters a lot. It means the JVM keeps running normally until a debugger actually connects, which is the setting you want for anything resembling a live service. Once that socket is open, JDI-based clients, your IDE or the GDB command line tool, speak the JDWP wire protocol over it. They register breakpoints as structured event requests and pull back stack frames and variable values as structured packets. No raw memory addresses involved, because the JVM exposes debugging as a managed runtime service. On the C++ side, it's a different world. GDB or LLDB calls ptrace with the attach flag to become the process's tracer. Then, to set a breakpoint, it does something almost blunt. It literally overwrites one byte at the target instruction with the value 0xEC, the int3 opcode. When the CPU executes that byte, it raises a sig trap. The kernel stops the process and hands control to the debugger, which reads registers and restores the original byte so it can step past. One more thing worth knowing. Hardware watchpoints, data breakpoints on a specific variable, don't patch memory at all. They load the address into an x86 debug register and let the CPU trap on access. That's why they work even on read-only code pages and cost almost nothing until they actually trigger. And here's a real constraint worth flagging before you hit it in production. ptrace only allows one tracer per process at a time, and on most hardened production hosts, a kernel security setting called Yama's ptrace scope blocks non-parent processes from attaching at all. That's a deliberate security control, not a bug. And the right fix is a scoped capability grant for your debugging tooling, not disabling the protection globally across the host. Now, let's flip this around. Instead of clicking through a debugger, let's script one. GDB embeds a full Python interpreter and exposes its internal object model directly. GDB.breakpoint is a subclassable class, and if you override its stop method, you get to run arbitrary logic on every single hit and decide programmatically whether the process should actually halt. What you're looking at here is a conditional breakpoint on a connection pool destructor path. Every time it's hit, the script evaluates an expression, logs the result, and only actually stops execution when the pool's active count is unexpectedly 0. Everything else, every other hit, is just a silent log line and an automatic continue. Why does this matter? Because this is exactly how you debug a failure that reproduces once every few thousand requests. A UI breakpoint that stops on every single hit is useless for a bug like that. You'd be sitting there clicking continue for hours. But a scripted conditional breakpoint that only interrupts on the actual bad state turns a multi-hour babysitting session into an unattended overnight run that you just check on in the morning. And LLDB has the exact same capability through its Python scripting bridge, if you're on the LLVM toolchain instead. So, visual debugger or command line debugger? This isn't which one is better, it's which one fits your constraints right now. The visual, IDE-based debugger wins on pure ergonomics. Expandable object trees, inline variable values right next to your source code, zero syntax to memorize. That's exactly right when you're doing local development and you already have a fast connection to the target. The command line debugger, GDB, LLDB, JDB, wins on reach and repeatability. It runs anywhere a shell runs, including a stripped-down container with nothing but the binary inside it. And because it's scriptable, you can encode a triage procedure once, using the Python API we just looked at, and run it identically every single time the bug shows up again, instead of re-deriving the same click sequence from memory. A lot of teams end up hybrid. Point a DAP-speaking IDE at GDB or LLDB's machine interface over an SSH tunnel. You get IDE ergonomics with CLI reach, at the cost of one more protocol layer to reason about when something breaks. Here's a line I want you to remember. The scariest words in an incident channel are, let me just attach a debugger real quick. Live attach gives you the only view that shows a bug actually happening in real time, but it has real costs. On the JVM, most debugger operations need the runtime to reach a safe point, a moment where every thread state is consistent enough to inspect, which means a single debugger operation can pause the entire JVM, not just the thread you care about. That pause is invisible in your debugger UI, but very visible as a latency spike to every service calling in. On the native side, a ptrace attached process runs measurably slower, even between explicit breakpoint hits, because every signal round trips through the tracer. post-mortem analysis sidesteps all of that. A core dump is the operating system's own crash time memory snapshot, configured with ulimit, typically triggered by a signal like sigapt. A Java heap dump captures the entire object graph at a single point in time. Both can be pulled off a production host with essentially zero risk and analyzed later offline at your own pace, using tools like GDB against the core file, Eclipse AT for Java heap dumps, or WinDigg for Windows mini dumps. The standard operating pattern at mature engineering organizations: never live attach to a production process during a customer impacting incident unless post-mortem tooling has already failed to explain what happened. Here's what that principle looks like in practice. The best production debugging tool is often the one you never had to attach at all. Java Flight Recorder, JFR, ships inside the JDK itself, not as a bolt-on agent. It's a continuously running, low-overhead event recorder, commonly cited at around 1 to 2% steady-state overhead. Instead of attaching a debugger to a live JVM and risking a SafePoint-wide pause, teams just leave JFR recording by default and pull a time-windowed recording after something goes wrong, or trigger a snapshot right at the moment of an anomaly, like a GC pause or an allocation spike. Async Profiler, a widely used open-source companion, layers sampling-based CPU and allocation profiling on top of that, using Linux's perf events and JVMTI hooks without the SafePoint bias that plagued older sampling profilers, which could only sample at safe points and systematically underrepresented everything happening between them. The pattern this teaches goes further than the last slide's live versus post-mortem trade-off. For hot path production services, the mature answer is often neither. You instrument continuously at near zero cost, and you only reach for a debugger once the always-on data has already narrowed the search enough to justify the risk. And the same shape shows up on the native side. Production C++ services increasingly rely on always-on sampling tools like perf or eBPF-based tooling for the 95% case, and save GDB or core dump analysis for what's left over. Last technique, and this one changes the shape of the whole problem. What if you never had to say, "it doesn't reproduce" again? RR is Mozilla's open-source record and replay debugger for Linux. It uses ptrace plus hardware performance counters to record a process's execution completely deterministically. Every syscall result, every signal, every thread interleaving, down to the exact instruction. Once you have that recording, you can replay it as many times as you want under GDB, including reverse continue and reverse step, which actually run the real recorded execution backward to the exact instruction that first corrupted a value. Pernosco, a commercial cloud debugger built by RR's original authors, takes this even further. It indexes the entire recording and lets you just query, where did this value last change, instead of manually stepping backward yourself. Why does this separate practitioners from beginners? Because it inverts the entire debugging loop. Traditional debugging is reproduce, guess a breakpoint, step forward, repeat until you get lucky and land on the cause. Reverse debugging is reproduce once, and then work backward from the symptom directly to the root cause. No rerunning, no lucky breakpoint placement, no Heisenbugs that vanish the moment you attach a debugger. The cost is real. Recording overhead and Linux-only support, though ARM64 coverage is growing. So this fits CI-triggered failures and hard-to-reproduce race conditions far better than routine day-to-day debugging. The natural home for this is your CI pipeline. When a flaky or hard-to-reproduce test fails, you record it under RR right there in the environment where it failed, and hand that recording to whoever investigates. They replay the exact failing execution locally instead of trying to coax a race condition into happening again on their own machine, which for a genuinely racy bug might simply never happen again by chance. Let's pull this together into 5 things to actually carry back to your team. 1. Know your protocol, not just your IDE. JDWP and ptrace fail in different ways. Diagnosing a connection failure means knowing which layer you're actually debugging in. 2. Default to suspend equals n and postmortem first. Never let a live attach be your first move against anything serving production traffic. 3. Script the repeatable, click the exploratory. One-off local bugs, use the IDE. Recurring or rare production bugs, script GDB or LLDB so the triage runs unattended. 4. Instrument continuously before you debug reactively. JFR and async profiler style always-on data narrows an investigation before you ever need to attach anything at all. And 5, reach for reverse debugging on true Heisenbugs. If a bug won't reproduce reliably, record it once under RR and stop trying to get lucky with breakpoint placement. Notice these aren't 5 independent tips. They're one coherent way of thinking about debugging as a discipline with real costs, not just a feature bolted onto your IDE.
A few pointers if you want to go deeper. You don't need to memorize any of this right now. You just need to know it exists, so you can find it again at 2 in the morning. For protocols, the JDWP and JPDA specification on Oracle's doc site, the debug adapter protocol spec from Microsoft, and the ptrace man page. For day-to-day tools, GDB and its Python API, LLDB, Eclipse MAT for heap dump analysis, and Visual VM, both of which, worth noting, are usually already available in your JDK environment, even if your teams never open them. And for the frontier, rrproject.org, Pernosco, and Async Profiler on GitHub. Thank you. I'd love to open this up for questions. Here's the question I'll leave you with, and I genuinely want to hear your answers. Which of your team's hardest to reproduce bugs from the last quarter would a recorded R replay have solved in minutes instead of days? Let's talk about it.